Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the interaction between form of NVC and the essence of NVC. And the interaction really helps take me out beyond the edges of NVC. And I would love to reference something that Ken Wilber talks about at one point. And he talks about a pre-conventional, a conventional, and a post-conventional phases. In the pre-conventional, that was a time when Marshall was early in his life, and he just started asking questions like, how come some people can stay compassionate in the face of violence and others become violent? Like, what is that? I'm noticing there's something that I really care about here, some essence that I'm going for. How come some people can stay compassionate? I'm noticing a taste of compassion and essence here. And I'm drawn to that. I'm curious how to get there, but there's no form to help me get there. It's kind of a pre-conventional phase. And so then in a conventional phase, Marshall develops a particular form. He develops a practice. And his practice developed over decades. The idea of needs didn't come until I think 20, 25 years into the process. And so it was continually evolving throughout his life. But in the conventional stage, there's a form that he develops. Okay, if I start looking at observations instead of evaluations, oh, that's a particular form I can identify and practice. And I'm noticing if I distinguish between my feelings and my thinking, that also gets me back to this place of interdependence and compassion. And now if I could separate needs and strategies, oh, that makes a big difference. And requests and demand. Okay, that particular form is something I can practice. It becomes a pathway I can use over and over and over to get to the essence of what I'm looking for, to live life fully with an open heart in that compassionate way. And so the form is critical in that conventional stage to help us get regularly and frequently back to the essence that we're looking for in life. The same is true in the development of certain meditation and mindfulness practices. The same is true in the development of Aikido or Jiu-Jitsu form. The same is true in the development of yoga. So that there's particular forms to get us to some underlying essence that we want to cultivate. And I think this is often the stage where I hear people saying, well, that's not NVC, or this is NVC, or NVC won't work, or NVC will work. Is that if the form isn't recognizable in that structured way, then it's hard to think of NVC outside of the box. But I remember over and over hearing Marshall and others say, we can never know if it's NVC because of the words we use. We have to know the relationship. We have to know the dynamics. We have to know the context. And if we're moving toward connection, coming from a place of consciousness and interdependence, then it's really important that we use language and phrases and body postures and body movements and what we wear that is going to fit the context and lead toward more safety, trust, and connection. So that's the conventional phase. Now, in a post-conventional stage, that's where the essences become embodied. Through the practice of this form, I've embodied the essence, I've embodied the principles to such a degree that my form can become fluid. My form can shift and change according to the context. And that really is the place where I experience the NVC beyond the edges. It doesn't look like a certain form anymore. My speech doesn't sound like a certain thing. I don't necessarily choose the same actions and behaviors over and over. Depends on the context. But I am deeply embedded in the principles, in the essence. I'm doing everything I can with every bit of my resources to move toward interdependence on the planet, to move toward a world that works for all. And if I stay stuck in the conventional phase where it has to look like this form, then I'm actually going to create more disconnection than connection. And so I'm passionate about this topic because I do think we're at a place now with with NVC being so internationally based, that if we continue to stick to a particular form in the way that Marshall taught it, we're going to lose out and let go of the precious, precious gift that he gave us. So I really invite all of us to sit deeply with the principles, practice a form that gets you there, and then really explore ways of connecting with people on the planet that feel good and look good in all sorts of cultures. I noticed that each one of my relationships, every single relationship is different. So a couple words of caution. One is that in the pre-conventional, when there isn't a form established, and I just know that, wow, I'm trying to get more compassion. And in the post-conventional phase, when the form is fluid, sometimes they can look similar. And so, because the form might not be as identifiable. And so really the post-conventional requires coming from a consciousness, that consciousness of interdependence, power with, and natural giving. And the other thing is that each one of these phases, each one of these levels or stages includes and transcends each other. They're all vital, they all matter. And we can flow back and forth between them. I just like putting that this concept for this idea that we can continue growing in our capacity and our ability to live NVC in the world and apply NVC in the world.